comparing and ordering rational numbers. So working example number 1, a rational number, what is it? Does anybody actually know the definition of a rational number? I mean, it says right here, it's a number written as a over b, where a and b are integers and b can't be 0. So b can't be 0 because we can't divide by 0. Okay, that's why that has a restriction. Okay. Any number that can be written as a fraction, and then examples are -4, -4/1, 3.5, 7/2, -1/2, 1 3/4, 0, and 0/7. Those are all examples of rational numbers. Now, if you're looking at that and you're like, well, what's not a rational number then? Can we think of a number that's not a rational number? 0 is up there. What's that? Sure, yep, that's actually not even a number at all because you can't do that, but you're technically correct, that's not rational. What's that? No, 1 over, yeah, no, 1 over 0, you can't divide by 0 because 0 isn't a value, so you're not dividing by anything, so it's undefined. Yeah?
Would it be like a repeating number, like 0.5 repeating?
Close. But 0.5 repeating I can write as a fraction, and this says fractions are okay. It's like 2/3, right? 2/3 is 0.6 repeating, so that's actually a rational number. Okay, what about a famous day that's even like almost a holiday for math? Pi Day. Pi is an irrational number.
Because it doesn't stop.
Correct. Okay, so here's the definition of the two, and we'll talk about it later. Okay, a rational number is a number that can be written in fraction form and fractions of 2 integers. Irrational are numbers that are non-repeating, non-terminating decimals. So that means they keep on going and they're not repeating, like pi. Okay, another thing, another set of numbers that are very common for irrational numbers are square roots. Square root of 2, square root of 3, square root of 5. Those are, if you put them in your calculator, they're not a consistent pattern and they keep on going because they keep square rooting into a number that it can't square root, which provides a decimal. Okay, so most of our numbers that we deal with, guys, are rational numbers, but we have that little group of irrationals that are special cases. Okay, pi, root 2, root 3, etc. But anyway, so compare and order the rational numbers right here. So let's go to this. Uh-oh. Ah. Let's try it now. Okay, a little blurb in the video, but that's all right. There we go. All right, so compare and order the rational numbers, show you work. So we're going to compare and order these. So we're going to look at the negatives first. So -1.2 and -7/8 is what I'm looking at first. -1.2 is the bigger negative. Okay, so that is going to be the smallest one. So there it is. Okay, which one's closer to 0? -7/8 is. Look at the number line. -7/8 is closer to 0. Kind of just fill in the boxes here. The only thing I don't like about these notes too much, they're kind of weird fill in the boxes. Sometimes you're like, wait, what do they want in that box? But we'll do the best we can. As long as we get the concept, we're good. Okay, so we got the negatives kind of sorted out. So it's -1.2, -7/8. Now we have to figure out the positives. Okay, so I'm going to move it up here. Okay, so 0.5, 4/5, and 7/8 will be to the right of 0. 0.5 is about 1/2, right? Okay. 7/8 is closest to 1. Okay, 7/8 is bigger than 4/5, right? And then, so we kind of understand that we're going to have 7/8 is going to be right here. This right here is going to be 4/5, and then 0.5 repeating is right there. So we have them ordered now. Okay, on a number line, if you take the two pieces from our notes, we have -1.2 is farthest to the left, then the -7/8. The smallest positive is 0.5 repeating, and then 4/5 and 7/8 are close, but 7/8 is a little bit bigger. Okay, so we just ordered those rational numbers. Nothing like over the top there. Okay, Method 2, you can use decimals, so we can just put them all into decimal form, so we know that, like, it's kind of putting them all in the same playing field. Because we had some fractions, some decimals, just make them all decimals so they're on the same playing field. So like 4 over 5 is 0.8. 7 over 8, what's that? 0.8, I think it's 0.875, is that right? Okay, thanks. 0.875, and then negative 7 over 8 is negative 0.875. Okay, so now they're all decimals, so we can see it a little bit easier. So we still have our negative 1.2, negative 0.875, 0.55 repeating. We have our 0.8 and our 0.875. Okay, and then so again, the numbers in ascending order, so from smallest to biggest are as we put there. Okay, and then descending order from biggest to smallest, we just flip it. From biggest to smallest. Okay, go ahead and do this. When we do these notes, the show you knows are going to be kind of the self-checks during the lesson. Okay, so like right now, I'm just going to go ahead and stop for a second, give you guys 2 or 3 minutes to do the show you know, and then we'll move on. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Is there any questions before we do that on ascending, descending, okay, or anything we did there? I mean, you guys understand how to do decimals. You can just put in your calculator. Okay, any questions at all? Pretty basic? Okay. All right, so I'll move this up and then go ahead and try the show you know. All right, so the thing with this is a lot of you guys are kind of figuring out was that you got to kind of read the number line was the hard part, okay? The number line is going by tenths, so like 0.1. Why I know that is because between 0 and 1, there's 10 dashes. So like this right here is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 1. So I know that all the way to 1, they're in tenths. So now when you're looking at your fraction and decimals, that can help kind of establish where they're going to go. So negative 0.6, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's where negative 0.6 is. Okay, 3/4 is 0.75. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then halfway between. So that's going to be right there, 0.75. 3/8 is 0.375, right? So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4, just right before 4. And then negative 3/2 is negative 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right there. Yep, Brett?
For like 3/4, it is 0.75, but do you have that as a fraction, or would you like maybe?
Oh yeah, you can write it. You can write it here as 3. Either's fine. Your labeling, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, you can label it fraction or decimal. It's fine. Okay, so ascending order now. So we want to go from smallest to biggest on our number line. So we're going to be going negative 3/2, negative 0.6, 3/8, 3/4. Right, and then I'm just, yeah, we'll save a little time. The descending is just going to be 3/4, 3/8, negative 0.6, negative 3/2. You can write that in your notes there. Okay. All right, okay, on the final 2 pages here. Okay, so working example 2, comparing rational numbers. Which fraction's greater, negative 3/4 or negative 2/3? So they're both negative, so we actually want the smaller negative, right? That's going to be a bigger number because that's going to be closer to 0. Okay, so method 1, use equivalent fractions. So you could do that if you'd like. Some of you guys kind of already know, but we can go, okay, we're going to times this by 3. That gives me negative 9/12. We're going to times this one by 4, so they have the same denominator. And you can see this one is negative 8/12. So now you can see which one's the bigger versus the smaller. That's what they're doing that. It's pretty much just getting a common denominator. Okay. Okay, that's just 12. Just talking about a common denominator. So now we can see that negative 3/4 is a bigger negative than negative 2/3, so our bigger number is going to be that one. Okay, this is going to be our bigger number because it's a smaller negative. Okay, because negative 2/3 is 0.6, negative 3/4 is negative 0.75. Okay, just real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Here's 0, here's negative 0.6, here's negative 0.75. So this is a bigger number because it's further to the right. Okay, it's the idea of negatives. Okay, any questions there? All right, okay. All right, they're going to kind of go over that here some more. So they're just pretty much talking about the same thing we just said. Negative 8 is greater than negative 9, so negative 2/3 is the greater fraction. And they show you on the number line there as well. Okay, the other thing you can do is you change both fractions to decimals. So negative 3/4 is negative 0.75. Negative 0.75, and then we also have negative 0.6. You can put that number line, and again, the one furthest to the right is the bigger one, which again is the negative 2/3. Just doing it in decimal form this time. Okay. Still pretty easy today, but not too bad. Right here's negative 2/3. This is the last little piece there, if you don't have that filled in. All right, so try this, show you know. So since there are two negatives, it's actually which is smaller. I want the one farthest to the left, which means I want the bigger negative. So negative 7/10. So again, they have it. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Let's get my pen here. Yeah, we could do that too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 again. So here's negative 1. Okay, so no one said make a common denominator. Sure, we can do that. So that gives me negative 7/10, and then I have negative 6/10 for negative 3/5. Got them both to be 10s. So negative 7/10 is there. 6/10 is there. Okay, so then you can see this one right here is your smaller number. It's further to the left. Okay, which is greater, negative 0.25 or 0.00001? So 0.001 is really close to what? 0. It's right here. Okay. Negative 0.25, put it right about here. So this one right here is definitely greater. It's positive. That's kind of straightforward. Okay. Okay, so find if this is actually one of the ones that people mess up the most on because they're not good at fractions. Okay, and that's why we started with fractions to start with. Find a fraction between negative 0.6 and negative 0.7. Now, there's an infinite amount of answers, okay, but you need to be able to find a fraction between them. So what it says you want to do is you can change the decimals to negative 0.60 and negative 0.70. So that's like negative 60 and negative 70. And then you're going to think about it as negative 65 is between those. So now, negative 0.65, we're going to figure out what is that as a fraction. Well, what place are we in? Tens or hundreds or thousands? So we're going to write 65 over 100. Everybody following me? Yeah. So all we did is we added a 0 so that we can go ahead and use that place value and be between there. So we had 0.6, 0.7. We made them 60 and 70. So that we can put numbers between them. We could have done 6.1, we could have done 6.2, we did 6.5 because it's a little bit smoother. Okay? So this is going to, we wanted to go ahead and make this reduce. So that reduces to 13/20. So 13/20 is a fraction between those two decimals. Again, that's another problem too that you can always check your work. Okay? You can always check your work. And you can just see, okay, is that actually between or is it not? Okay. All right, to close out the notes today, you got the last show you know. Okay, and we'll see if Jade can do the first piece, and we'll do Bree for the second piece. Oops. All right. So what did you get for yours, Jade? How did you do it? Okay, so you put them on the number line first, so it doesn't really matter, I guess, where you put it. So we got, I'll just call this one 0.56. I'll call this one 0.58. And so right there is 0.57. Okay, and then how'd you write 0.57 as a fraction?
57/100.
Okay, good. Did that reduce at all? I don't think it reduces either, so I think we're good. Okay, so that's good. 57/100 would be a fraction between 0.56 and 0.58. Perfect. Okay, Bree, how about you for negative 2.4, negative 2.5? Okay, good. So we have negative 2.4, we'll say is 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. And then we have negative 2.5 is right here. So she went right in the middle. So she went negative 2.45. So then how did you write that as a fraction? Times, so say it again.
Okay, so the fraction the decimal I got,
Uh-huh.
times it by 10.
Okay. Out of 10 is a fraction. I see. I hear what you're saying. But you have this right. So the one thing you need to do right now is just put that over 100. It's 245 over 100. So, but that's, I see what you're saying. I'll come look at it. But so because we're in the hundreds place, so we just write this, and now we just reduce. So 5 goes into that 20, 49, I think. So I think that would be our fraction in between them for if you're using 2.45. Okay? All right, so now you guys have time to work on the check for understanding. Remember, you have the basic skills quiz tomorrow. Okay, so be ready for that. And